It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
We are live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm your host, Carl Coulange, by the fans and for the fans. Today I had a script and I had a mind of what the show is going to be like, but we just got breaking news that the Milwaukee Bucks have decided to boycott in light of the shooting in Michigan to Jacob Blake. Special prayers to him and his family for what happened. And my mind was racing, and I'm going to be totally honest and transparent with the fans today. My mind was racing about how do I approach the show with what we had scheduled. And I'm going back and forth with my contributors and asking myself, how do I do this? And to the point where, you know, everyone's telling me this is the leading story. This is what you do. You go as it goes along. And then something just clicked and I said, you know what? F this. And today's show is just going to be about what's going on in the world and what the Bucks decided to do to be the first team to take a stand in the conversation that we've been having, not only since the death of George Floyd during this past May, but what's been going on in this country for years and 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 years. And people will always say, well, racism will always exist and not fully understand and not understand and get what's going on. So today I asked my contributors to just follow my lead in discussing and having the conversation and continuing to have the conversation and use this Sports Hit List platform. I created this platform so we can engage and talk about sports and be able to express our feelings and emotions any way we see fit. And right now it seems fit that we discuss what's going on. Special shout out again to the Milwaukee Bucks for being that first team to take the stand. And the tweets are flowing in and the conversation still has to happen when change happens. And if that means no sports is played, then no sports is played. There are a lot of things that are bigger than basketball, bigger than sports, bigger than entertainment, way more things in life. Human life is way bigger than that. To that, I transition to my contributors, JJ Louis, Paul the Great, Ricardo Etienne, and Travis McKay. JJ, what are your thoughts on what just occurred with the Milwaukee Bucks deciding to boycott their Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first round?
Profound statement. It's a profound statement by the Milwaukee Bucks. I know that the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors, they were discussing amongst themselves last night about boycotting. I believe that they're going to be meeting today as well. And to be honest, it's a conversation that needed to happen. And I'm looking at the jump as we speak, and it's one of those, whether they were right for doing it, wrong for doing it, it had to happen. And it was bound to happen because of these type of situations. Because even getting inside the bubble, these situations were still persisting. And so, I know we're going to, expound upon it later on with the rest of our fellow contributors, but it's a profound statement by the Milwaukee Bucks, and shout out to them as well as the Orlando Magic organization for basically complying.
MVP, before this happened, when the NBA was on the verge of coming back, there were discussions that they would boycott, and other people thought that they would come back, and they thought it wasn't the right time for them to do it. What are your thoughts now seeing it actually happen?
You know, man, even when it happened, and I'm still up in the air on it. And I say that only because, I think out of respect, obviously it happened in-house, even though they're in Orlando and they're in the bubble. Like, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, that's super local, right? Like, those people live in Wisconsin, or at least, part-time in their lives. Their family is back home in Wisconsin. Their friends, their community, their neighborhoods, the places they went to, the people they've seen, right? So there's a lot of people affected, right? The entire organization. Boycotts, the thing that I always struggle with is I think about how great of a platform that can continue to be used for the adverse, right? To actually get out there and continue to reach people and send your message, right? You think about, I think there was something like 14 million people listening to LeBron James post-game message after Game 4, right? So that's 14 million more individuals that get a chance to feel that message and feel his tone. And, I actually thought that Adam Silver would have canceled games in general, just out of the strength of what's going on. And once there was even talk of Boston and Toronto, I didn't even think it would even happen. And It's unfortunate, man. I just, you know, I'm at a loss for words, mostly because, I walk outside every single day and I think about, the things that we got to go through as a culture and as a community. Not just myself, but I just think about any African American, any individual of color, whether you're Haitian. To me, it doesn't matter, right? We all deal with pretty significant disadvantages, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of them a lot. And people can be in denial all they want, but it's the reality, And my heart goes out to those kids, man. Those kids that was in the back of that car, man, and seeing their father, who is paralyzed now, right? I can't even imagine the fear, the anguish. It's tough, man. As a parent, I remember saying I didn't want a son because of how complex I thought raising an African American kid in our country could be. And I got a son coming in November, and it's like, man, I'm terrified. As a father, from a leadership perspective, as a parent, it's terrifying, dude. So, sorry for the long answer, man, but it's a lot.
Listen, man, take your time. I'm not. That doesn't matter. And as you eloquently said, it's fearful. I don't have any kids now, but I do have you individuals. You guys are my brothers. I have cousins. I have real brothers. I have nieces, nephews, godchildren that consistently every day you pray for.
Every day.
Every day. Travis, what are your thoughts on the Bucks deciding to boycott this game today?
Well, first I want to send out my prayers to Jacob Blake and his family. To hopefully they can get through this time. But I know sometimes I get a little long-winded, but bear with me.
Of course.
Today will make the exception for you, man.
I appreciate it. But for as long as I can remember, for as long as I've loved sports has always been a place for me to escape, a place of peace. Come game day, I looked forward to those 3 hours of simplicity in life where everything else from the outside world didn't matter. All that mattered was, dominating the person in front of you. And I looked forward to it every Saturday. But I applaud the NBA because, you know what? I know at the beginning of this, they didn't want, a lot of players had hesitation of going into the bubble because they didn't want to be distracted from what was going on outside in the real world. But you know what? I'm glad that they decided to sit here and say, I don't know if I can say this one, but F your entertainment. Like, this is not, we all love sports for the distraction, but that's not what we need right now. Right now, we need to feel the feels. We need to see this. We need to have people aware of this. The sports, those 3 hours of peace and comfort that we were going to get from watching the game tonight, no, we don't need that. Feel this. Watch this. See what's going on out here. Let this be at the front of your mind all the time right here, that the change needs to happen, that these things are going on out here in the world. And I just have to commend, especially the Bucks, because like Paul stated, this is close to them right there. This is their community. So it was to see, because I know we heard reports of, what was it, Boston and who else was?
Toronto.
Toronto, they were thinking about doing it, but the Bucks came out of left field with this because we didn't hear any reports about them at least I didn't until it happened. So I commend them because, and I know Paul said he
Sorry, just breaking news. All teams have boycotted officially. That's the word I'm getting now. All teams have decided to boycott officially.
And I'm here for it because, I know Paul stated that he thought Adam Silver would have canceled the games. I think this is more of an impact. I think if it came from the players coming out there saying, no, we're not stepping on this court. We will not be the ones to sit here and distract you from what's going on. We're not here to just entertain you. You need to understand what is going on and what is affecting people that look like us in our communities. And for that, I commend them because I feel like if it came from Adam Silver and the league, it would have felt more like an approved thing. Like it would have felt more official. And I feel like the impact would have been less. No, this is it. I feel like this is the way they should have went about it. And I know I give the NBA a lot of slack all the time because, I'm an NFL guy. And I just know the NFL would never do this. And so for that, I can probably sit here and say, you know what? I'm happy that the NBA did this, man. And This is just something that we needed. This is something we needed.
Rick, what are your thoughts, man? Your first thing that came to mind when you saw that text or tweet that the Bucks decided to boycott the game?
So a couple of great points made already. One of the things I wanted to touch up on, Adam Silver, exactly what Travis said. I feel like I appreciate the fact that he did make his call, to kind of piggyback off of Travis's point there is, he let the players have that power to make that choice and decide what they wanted to do in this moment, which is great, especially considering the fact that their whole thing coming in was that, them coming back to play wouldn't distract, it wouldn't muzzle them from being able to speak their minds and say what they feel about these things that are going on. So this is, the NBA and Adam Silver saying, we told y'all we were going to be okay with this. We're okay with this. Y'all don't want to play tonight, then we ain't playing, So letting it be their decision is huge. That's powerful. That's number one. Number two, Doc, first, MVP mentioned about being a parent, to a boy specifically, to a black boy, So I have a son, so y'all know what it is, Doc touched me last night, man, for real. Like when he said what he said, as far as, how many white fathers have to have that conversation with their sons about how to react or how to act when they're in any type of engagement with a police officer, that touched me in my soul, man. Like it's crazy that those are the types of conversations that people who look like us have to have nonstop over and over again. And, we keep seeing it over and over and over again. And it's like, again, each time for me, the thing that kills me inside is that you just seen it go down a couple months ago. How can you carelessly let it go down again? You just seen it go down 6 months before that. And then here comes the next episode, a year before that. And then here comes the next episode. It's like, it doesn't make sense. You would think at a certain point, some of these trigger happy cops, and I'm talking to those trigger happy cops. That's another thing everybody needs to understand. We're not talking to all cops. It's not about all cops. It's these trigger happy cops that something has to be done. And the fact that they keep seeing it happen over and over again, like you would think they wouldn't want to be the next contestant on that Summer Jam screen. You know what I mean? But yet here it is, just carelessly whipping out that piece and bop, 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 bop. Answer, you'll answer to somebody, maybe not later, So it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think the biggest message that I get from the players when this comes down to it is like, we are watching, as far as the players are saying from their point of view, it's like the country is watching people who look like them get killed in the middle of the afternoon on live TV at 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon. You know what I mean? If you are gonna not get angry about that and just change the channel, don't pull up at 7:30 to see me dribble a basketball, man. Don't pull up to see me drain a 3. Don't pull up to hope I close out a series, So that message is loud and clear now. So I appreciate that from the entire league.
We have some tweets coming in. Special shout out to Andres Rivas. He's sending them to me as they come in. Donovan Mitchell, we demand change. Salute. Jamal Murray, demand justice. A lot of players, even LeBron tweeting, F this man, we need to take a stand. Do we think the other leagues will take stand? Will this be a ripple effect? Because as we saw, the NBA is normally the leader in the forefront for social advocacy. Could this possibly trickle down to the other sports, to the NFL, to the MLB, to the NHL? Does that have enough strength in numbers that it could go on? And we know athletes communicate with each other, they're friends. Could this go on to the other leagues? JJ?
There's a strong possibility that it could. I feel like NBA, as you mentioned, it's usually at the forefront of these progressive things. It's more or less the liberalized sport, and basically everything that's more or less trickles down. It probably wouldn't be the same fashion. Clearly, NFL, they more or less had their campaign, with Black Lives Matter. They had that commercial, and Roger Goodell had a laissez-faire kind of vibe to him. But Adam Silver has put his foot in everything in regards to basically trying to promote and help and benefit his players. But yeah, I think that, NFL will follow suit eventually. MLB, they have no other choice to at this point. But I think that all of those sports will eventually fall in line.
I don't know, man. I'm going to tell you why. I'm disappointed to be a Yankee fan, right? I mean, they're playing 2 games today, right? I mean, they're playing as we speak. Fortunately for the NFL, who gets a lot of bad rep, the NFL does a lot to try to do the right thing. I know the cap thing didn't work out, right? From the media eyes, it wasn't a good look. But the NFL, on their end, I mean, it's training camp. So they could easily cancel a practice. They could have these meetings. They can do a lot of things within, their own circle that we'll never even hear about, right? Because they're not in season right now. And they won't be for another, I think, 15 days or so is when the opening kickoff is. NHL, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, they're in the playoff. I just don't see it. And Major League has never made the right moves, right? When you think about culture, community, they've never, ever, I've never heard the MLB doing anything gracious. I mean, I guess 9/11, sadly, was the only time we've ever seen the MLB, make the right move. I do think the soccer leagues actually internationally have taken a huge leap, and even from a personal perspective, I've become a fan by just seeing how the soccer leagues locally, internationally have moved and have joined forces, and whether it was with support to Kobe and even the same thing we're seeing with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. So I give them a lot of credit. I got faith in them for doing the right thing, but as a baseball fan, I don't see it, bro.
It's one of those those nuanced things, right? Because you have the clout, NBA has that clout of you're going to do the right thing or more or less close to it. MLB, they may do something that is I wouldn't say it's similar, but whatever they do, they have to do what's best for the players.
But you know what it is too, right? The NBA is our people, right? It's led, dominated, even though front offices isn't our people. The NBA has always been the players' game, unlike the
they have that power,
right? So if LeBron say he ain't playing or Russell Westbrook say, nah, we ain't playing, then hey, we ain't playing, right? But when you think about baseball, I mean, I don't want to say it, but I mean, they ain't really affected the way we affected. You know what I'm saying? Soccer guys get it, right? The guy who was from the slums in Haiti just kicking around a rock trying to make it to the next level. I seen somebody redo a Drake commercial, I think in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Laugh now, cry later. They made their own Nike apparel. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen go viral. But that's real life in other countries, dude. And it's those kids, man, they ain't really affected, bro. Things happen every day. And it's just, you've never seen the MLB speak up and step to the forefront, issue the right statements. You've never seen that, bro. And that's unfortunate, but look at the Yankees. I don't even think they have an African American in the organization, let alone on the field, in the organization, right? So when you think about the shit going on in our city, dude, even in New York, it's just business as usual for the Yankees. They're on the Yes Network right now, and they're down 4-0, right? And that's what's unfortunate. A powerful message would have been halt the game, suspend the rest of the day, let's follow the right lead. But I don't see it.
Yeah.
See, I don't even like that though. I don't even like the whole, because I think reports are saying now, as far as NBA, the games are going to be postponed. Nah, cancel.
No, you know what? Honestly, we don't even know. Womack will be on Wom, who's our Woj. For the hit list. He'll be on. That's the best nickname we ever came up with. So Wom will be on a little bit later. He's out west, and he has some he has some insides. And
all games postponed. And
there's some.
Woj just tweeted talking about games are going to be rescheduled. Nah, cancel.
We don't know.
Take the L.
But you know what? Moving forward, though. But you know what? Moving forward, though, at some point, do you just cancel the rest of the season until something happens?
And
what's the end game? Rick, go ahead.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying because if you postpone this and reschedule, you're gonna be able to get everything you got back. Them ad dollars gonna come back. The fans gonna watch that game right there. Nah, take the L on it right there.
I
You know what?
disagree, Trav. I disagree. Let me tell you why. There's a kid right now with an antenna trying to figure out a way to watch these games because his family can't afford cable, right? And he's handcrafting his own Chris Paul jersey out of things he found on the street. That kid shouldn't be held hostage of sports and something that's a great escape for what he's trying to think about what he's going to eat for breakfast tomorrow. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that
I know, because
is the answer. I think what they did today and what they probably will do tomorrow and what they may do for the rest of this week, that's powerful, dude. It's very powerful. What happens after that? I mean, these guys, this is their career. This is their livelihood, right?
You know, like any other
can't
time,
say more than that.
any other time frame, I would agree with you, Paul. But I gotta side with Travis, and here's why. It's 2020. November is what? The election, right? The finals is probably supposed to take place, what, early October, whatever?
September 30th. It's supposed
September
to start.
30th. And if it's supposed to start, so it's going to carry over, it's going to roll over into October. All these postponed dates is going to roll over into October. Everyone's telling us, oh, vote, do this, do that, what have you. And there's these escapes. Travis mentioned in his opening statement, basketball is an escape. We have all of these escapes, whether it be baseball, football's coming back. You know, now we have basketball, the playoffs. If we are to postpone these dates and lead them into October, the better part of October, early November's election day, right then and there. And I'm not saying that it's going to wholeheartedly take, distraction off of politics, but, to just simply say that, if we postpone instead of cancel, we can have a chance at having our cake and eat it too. Like, no, we have to make a profound statement now.
Hold on.
Just let Rick go. Go ahead, Rick.
So here's the thing. I see both sides of that, and what I think is most important, we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. This is happening right now, so as I would imagine, the players now, all of the players in the bubble now, one way or another, going to have to meet collectively and have them decide how they want to move forward. Maybe it's a conversation that ends up in being, you know what? It's just a wrap. There's going to be no NBA championship this year. And that's that. And it's over with, Maybe they come back to play. If it's a cancellation, how do you work out the series where they are and how do you move forward? How many games now are you playing to close out these series? There's a lot of things that are going to have to be talked over and figured out. And I would hope that, the players understand that and know that now is when they've got to come together and they decide how this bubble situation is going to move forward, based on what they want to do. Now, one of the other things I want to touch up on before, as far as the other leagues, again, the NBA is always going to be at the forefront of this. Paul, I appreciate you for shouting out soccer because, as you mentioned, it's the same thing. Those two games are people who look like us. Those are our games. Those other games aren't necessarily our games. So, those aren't going to have that immediate reaction. MLB's not going to have that immediate reaction to shut it down. Hockey's not going to have that reaction to shut it down. NFL still has the luxury of not having to make that decision. I'm actually supposed to be headed to a game today. So fans are back allowed at Orlando City Soccer Stadium today for the MLS. Game starts at 7:30. I'm actively looking to see what's going to go on. I don't know what they may decide to do one way or another because, as you mentioned, I know the MLS was also at the forefront of backing, BLM and this movement and all this these senseless acts and whatnot. So, it's one of those things where the players, end of the day, they're going to have to decide how this goes forward. It's going to be up to them to know if this is a postponement, if it's a cancellation, or a complete wash. Let's restart this thing next year.
And here's what I think, right? And here's what I think, Rick. And as much as I like to dislike the Banana Boat crew, but in knowing who they are, but as far as their political advocacy has been wonderful. 3 of the 4 of them are in the bubble. Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, and Chris Paul, who's head of the Players Association. Those guys have been completely very, very vocal about cause for change. When you have those guys as your leaders, do you really think now that the boycott happened, you think they'll allow the NBA to come back? I'm leaning towards the side of this, it's going to get canceled. With having those voices and having LeBron even say to himself, half of his mind is on playing basketball, the other half of his mind is on what's going on right now. Can you totally honestly see them being able to still play, knowing certain things and not getting changed? I mean, you want to make a boycott, taking one game off is that really going to cause a change, or taking a stand to not play the rest of the season to finish the championship?
I think it's a
Let
yes.
me just clarify.
No, I think it's a yes and a no. And let me tell you why. You remember when we didn't have sports from March till July, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you remember it was the Trump show, right? So when we sit here and we start thinking about the impact on this election, there's no greater impact and platform that we can gravitate to than the 15 million viewers watching those games. So maybe it's, they collect with Adam Silver, and maybe the marketing changes, right? Maybe the message that we're trying to deliver changes. Maybe those things happen. But I can't imagine in a million years that by them not playing and canceling the rest of the season, and now the actual direct day-to-day attention becomes off of them, what impact that makes. Because the reality is, whatever happens, whether they play today or they play tomorrow, isn't changing anybody on this panel's vote come November, right? And that's going to be the same for the other 50 other million Americans worldwide watching. Who you're going to vote for isn't going to change based on the NBA boycotting or MLS deciding to shut things down or the MLB jumping on board. To me, none of that's going to change if we want Donald Trump to be in office or Joe Biden, right? And even your local government, which is even probably a bigger shit show than what we got at the national level, right?
Because nobody pays attention at the local level.
Right, you get what I'm saying? They're all just floating under the radar, doing terrible things and leading us down horrific paths, man. And
that's where we could affect change the most, and nobody sees that, man. Get into your community,
and that's what you need,
your neighborhood.
Right? That's what you need. People go in there and get those ballots, man, and they're only looking at the top line. 40% of the ballots get left empty. Right? We don't even know who's running against these guys in our local government. We don't even know them. No names, right?
Guys, we're coming short.
Carl, let me just clarify something real fast.
Go ahead, bro.
I wasn't saying that they should cancel the rest of the season. I'm saying take the L on today. You know what I mean? Yeah, don't try and reschedule today's games, because then all you did was get back. You're gonna get what you lost today. Cancel today. Wipe it out. Don't reschedule those. Let's just move on to whenever the players are ready to come back and play, if they're ready to come back and play, and go on from there. But take this L, lose the ad dollars, because we all know money talk. People losing money is when it's going to affect change. So therefore, you lost it. You lost today. You lost these opportunities. Now, guess what? Get into what needs to be changed.
And Carl,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying cancel the whole season.
Yeah. Before you move on, I just want to say one other thing. For those out there watching and who will watch later, we also got to start looking in the mirror too, right? Because the whole peaceful protest vanished, right? Just as the people on the other end of the protest expected to happen. Police went from being cautious to being back to normal. We went from holding people accountable by being out there, having a voice, sending a message, to not doing any of the things. It's like the guy who used to work out that went back to eating cheeseburgers, right? That's what's also happened in all of our communities, right? So when we start thinking about these things going on, I don't know if I'm more upset that the cop shooting or the random 17-year-old who shot two people who were protesting, right? Because that's how he grew up. That's the mentality, dude. He has 17 just shooting people, right?
And he wanted to be a cop.
Where do you get that type of firepower at 17? Like, why do you have that at 17?
At 17.
And this is a kid who aspires to be a cop.
So we also got to look in the mirror. And before we, I know we're going to switch out soon for the other contributors. Man, my heart is out there for all of our local law enforcement. I know that we have, I know Jose is one of them. I know Marcus is another. If there's anybody out there missing at any level of enforcement, security, whatever it is, man, you guys keep your head up, bro. At the end of the day, unfortunately, when these things happen, people think every cop's a bad cop. And I just think it's valuable that we got to start being human, man. And at the end of the day, we got to hold everybody to the same standard. So it also starts with us in our own communities too.
Paul,
And as Paul said, my fault. As
Yeah.
Paul said, man, just look in the mirror and be the change that you want to see in the world, man. I'm huge on that, man. Like, just start moving the way that you want to see the world. Hopefully they'll see it and they want to see it in a positive way. But
I usually say two things whenever I speak with my friends, whenever I speak with whoever. Two things, and you guys mentioned one of them: accountability and empathy. Those things can go a long way in this society, and we lack it. Both sides, pressers and oppressed, both sides. We just have to hold ourselves accountable, and the people who are in power, they have to hold themselves accountable to it, and just empathize. We're all going through this struggle together. Because at the end of the day, United States of America, it's supposed to be together. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Rick, final thoughts.
I mean, everybody said it well, man. Like, I don't want it to be on some kumbaya type stuff, but to kind of wrap up what
we love you, Rick.
said.
We love you, Rick. We love you, man.
Hey,
love you, Rick. We got nothing but love.
sometimes we need that, sir. We need that.
Real talk.
You say that, and that's exactly where I'm headed. It's like, brotherhood is super important right now, man. Brotherhood is probably the most important thing in all our lives right now, man. We need to be together. We need to stick together. We need to not be ashamed to help each other out, ask for help, and just simply tell each other we love each other, man, for real. So, fellas, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Seriously, like, we need more brotherhood, man, because as long as we continue sticking together and being able to fight together, we're going to be able to move forward eventually. I hope, at least,
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for coming on today to discuss what just happened and what's continuing to happen. I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you guys. You guys be safe out there. Let me bring in the rest of my other contributors right now. Let's bring in Coach Womack for Wom, Anthony, and let's bring in Brandon as we continue this conversation here on the Sports Hit List by the fans, for the fans, live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I am your host, Carl Coulange. We had breaking news today. The Milwaukee Bucks decided that they will not play their game. Anthony, I'm going to need you to turn your phone for me, bro. Sorry to go live on. There you go. Turn it the other way one more time. Thank you. So let me bring in my contributors. We have Anthony, Coach, a.k.a. Wom, Falco, Mike Miller. Wom, what's the official word, my brother? We just saw the NBA cancel games for today. What are you hearing?
You remember, can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yeah, you're good.
I texted you before it came out, Carl. You got the screenshots before they said, before I knew. I talked to my guy who's playing, who's in there, and he said, ain't nobody gonna play. He said, watch. He said, nobody's playing today. And he said, be careful. This may be it if we don't get the right response. It may be it for the season if we don't get the right response. So, I mean, it's 7 weeks ago what happened with George Floyd. 7 weeks ago, you got a team like the Milwaukee Bucks with someone who's on their team has been a victim of police brutality. Mm-hmm. I know the NBA is trying its hardest. We as fans, I've loved the basketball. Really, it was refreshing to see the game, to see the joy, to not think about some of the things that were happening. But yesterday or a couple days ago, seeing what happened to that man, it was just a reminder that nothing changed in 7 weeks. Nothing changed in 7 weeks, and the NBA players feel that way.
Falco, what are your thoughts about the Bucks deciding to boycott and the rest of the games being boycotted today in the league?
I mean, it's their decision. If they don't want to play, they don't want to play. If they need a couple of days, they need a couple of days. But canceling the season is not going to end the situation. I don't think it's going to help anything. All it's doing really is suppressing their voices. And I think a great opportunity for them to do is donate their money to the Black Lives Matter movement or any Black community or something amongst those lines.
Pastor, what were your initial thoughts? I remember we had this conversation. We've continued to have this conversation on the Sports Hit List platform, whether we do a call for change 1, a call for change 2, social issues back when Colin Kaepernick, social issues 2. We've been continuing to use this platform to discuss the topics. And you said if they didn't play, you didn't care. Now it's here.
Yeah, this is exactly what we needed, because when we had that discussion before the season started, everybody was focused on who was saying it, but wasn't thinking about what they were saying. And that's the who was Kyrie Irving and Avery Bradley. And they were talking about this moment. They were talking about a point where we would get to a space in society. They're speaking as players that we would get to a space where basketball just doesn't matter anymore. And that's where, again, my man Brandon said it the last time, and I disagreed with him then, I disagree with him now. The players have only one type of leverage. That was their ability to play. They've taken that leverage. Now they've used that leverage. Now they make demands. Again, we're all reminded, and everybody's talking about it today, the Donald Sterling situation happens only because they said they were not going to play. They have now decided they have reached critical mass. There is nothing left to do but not play. Talking didn't do it. Putting Black Lives Matter on the floor didn't do it. It raised awareness, and it's still happening. So all of these 31 billionaires, you now know it's not going to be any games. We're not going to act like it's not happening. This was the moment that Kyrie and AB and Lou Williams was talking about coming. We are here now. Yeah, it's time.
Yes, sir.
Anthony, you've been a big advocate, still continuing the narrative for Colin Kaepernick, and you've been very vocal about that throughout the Sports Hitless streets, I like to call it. Now seeing this boycott, what are your thoughts?
I love it. That's all I can say is I love it. I love the energy. You know, I hope this leads to other, boycotts. Like I said, this is something the NFL has needed to do for a long time so they can get their CBA right and get things that they need, guaranteed contract, even though that's being implemented in, some people's contracts and things like that. But it should be across the board. College athletes, as far as now they get paid for their likeness and things, but I believe they should also get paid for their work and the money that they generate, or at least a portion. So, like I said, I just love the energy, and I hope it, reverberates throughout the rest of the world.
Part of the conversation we were having, who was going to say, Coach, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to just touch and just, I think it's very important to just think of it like this. Like, if someone's mother dies and they don't play a game, we're understanding of that. Like, right? So it happens in sports all the time. Somebody's mother dies, a father dies, a close family member, they don't come to that game, everybody understands, oh, the person died. 9/11 was a tragedy in New York. I lived in New York City. The Yankees didn't play. The Mets didn't play. The whole nation shut down for 9/11 because they said it was a tragedy that what happened to this country. No one should play a sport. We should all be focused, our thoughts and prayers on the matter that was at hand. Black lives, brown people, we matter. Mm-hmm. We matter. So if they say they're not playing for his life and other lives, let's respect it. And let's not say that it's not going to do anything, because it does something, because we're talking about it right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It matters. If my mother died and I didn't play a game, I would hope people would say, okay, we understand. If that man could have died, he's someone's mother, he's someone's brother, he's someone's father. We saw the video. It wasn't right. And if he did something wrong, I understand that. I have family members who are police officers. They have to protect themselves as well. People hurt police officers as well. They have to protect themselves, but they have to be held accountable. And our lives matter just as much as anyone else's lives. So it does matter that these players are doing something and not playing, because like Mike said, this is the moment we knew it was going to come. And if they would have played, it would have meant nothing, all those things that they said before. And now people have to understand we're going to stick things that we say we're going to do. So it does matter. It mattered a lot to me as a fan. It mattered to me what they did today. I'll tell you that much.
Man, everything.
It's all good. Beautiful. It's all good, man. We're here for you, and just trying to wrap my emotions and continue this show. Part of the conversation I had with the other contributors: do they take a stand and boycott games? What's the right approach? Is it just boycott until change happens? Do they cancel the season? And I said this, 3 of the 4, the Banana Boat members are in the bubble, and they've been very advocate in being forefront and speaking, in LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, who's the head of the Players Association. So I know once those gentlemen speak, the rest of the league, they listen to them. So what do we see moving forward after today? Is it going to be something where, okay, they boycott a couple of games and then they come back and finish the season? Or is it over? Or does this lead into election season, which is what we're leading into the fall right now, and having change among our communities? What's next? Mike, what are your thoughts?
I said this the other day. Well, actually, I said it today, and I was just thinking about it. And what I think it is now, and I think the players have reached it. Nobody move until somebody move. That's simple. Montgomery bus boycott, I believe it lasted 18 months. Those people in Alabama decided we are walking until something moves. Nobody move until somebody move. And I think the players have reached that point where that's why we haven't heard how long it is, because I think that's intentional. I think they're saying we're not giving you no, because the Montgomery bus boycott, there was no timetable. Is we ain't moving, we're not getting on these buses until something happens. These players are going to come. Please believe the demands are on the way. They got demands ready. This is not haphazard. They are talking to people. They are going to start making demands. I'm telling you and I think one of the demands they're going to push, because it's significant that the Bucks started this first, because what happened to Jacob Blake is right in their backyard. Nobody's been arrested yet. They're going to look for arrests. That's going to be a demand. Breonna Taylor's killers still haven't been arrested. I think they're at the point now where we're not moving until something moves, period. And I think they're not giving a date. I think they're saying, listen, they're going to have a list of demands and saying, listen, you got to meet X, Y, and Z, because basketball doesn't matter. You don't ever have to see basketball again. If we never see basketball and see racial oppression changed and see the systems change in our country, then it's worth it. We don't need basketball ever again if that's what we're going to get in return.
Brandon, what are your thoughts? How do you see this proceeding? Do you see the players possibly coming back to finish out the championship, or is this something that may just say cancel the season until we have change?
I think they're definitely canceling the season. There's no way that they play. At best, they take a few days and maybe give a few speeches or something and then come back. But I definitely don't see another game being played the rest of the season. I think it's done.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on that? Is the rest of the season canceled, or do we see them coming back?
Whatever, whenever, however long they choose to use their power, I'm with it. I really don't, I don't care, pretty much how long it takes, or, I don't have a threshold or expectations for, what they're going to do. If it's going to be 1 game, 2 games, I'm with them for whatever they choose to do. Again, that's my position.
Well, what are your thoughts on, or what are you hearing? Is it just and I know you have more insight than we do, but is this something that can continue to cancel the season into next season? How are the players handling what's going on?
I think it's up in the air. No one knows. It's very fresh. It's very raw. Everything's being thrown around. Listen, I think they could. I think they still could continue and still show force. And that sounds weird, but I think what they did today showed they can stop things. And I explained this to somebody. It's not just the game that got stopped. Think about all the people that bet on basketball. What about those parlay bets? That was stopped. Vegas, that was stopped. You know what I mean? Think about all the TV stations that had to scramble to see what they're going to put on TV today. That was stopped. So I think they showed their voices matter, and things can happen. Milwaukee, the guy can be charged. He can be charged, and that's a sign that people are listening. And then after people, what happens? If people listen, then you go back, you do your job, and then you work towards the next thing. But
that's not the end of it.
That's not the end of it.
Yeah, because a lot of people get charged, and then nothing happens, no jail.
But I tell you this: what the
charging, always got to follow up. Gotta follow
the
up.
charging is a start because we came from a point before where they weren't even charged.
Yeah.
It came, or it took 5 months for them to be charged after. It shouldn't be a protest or a riot for someone to be charged after seeing that video. He should have his day in that. And I'm not trying to get into politics, but he should have, the cop deserves his day in court, just like the rest of us. If somebody had a video of me shooting somebody, I'm not saying he should be charged and he should go to jail. That's not in my. I'm not a judge. I'm not a jury. Leave that to them. But he should definitely go through the system of what our nation and what our country has put in order for situations like this.
Absolutely.
You know?
Now, guys, Falco, let me ask you a question. Can this trickle down to the other sports? And I'm getting my perspective from all my contributors today. Could this have a trickle down to the NFL, the MLB, and other sports leagues across the U.S. and across the world? Could you potentially see the NFL, who's about a couple of weeks out before their season starts? Could we see, and we know athletes among athletes have conversations and they talk to each other. Could you potentially see this going on, a boycott in other sports leagues across the nation? Falco.
Well, it's already happening. The Brewers and Reds in the MLB, right before I got in here, they said in 10 minutes they will discuss whether they'll play the game today. I haven't been on my phone, so I don't know if they did cancel it, but I definitely do expect them to cancel it one way or another. I expect all sports to be canceled sooner than later, probably within the next few days.
Mike, what are your thoughts? Mike, you haven't watched the NFL, I would say, in 4 years, if my math serves me correct. About 3-4 years, give or take, right? Yeah. So could you potentially see the NFL, and I know your frustrations with the NFL after Colin Kaepernick, could you see them following the NBA suit and saying, you know what, Roger Goodell saying, you know what, or players taking stand and saying, we're going to boycott as well?
I do, from the standpoint that, like, the NFL, their brand is popular, but the NBA, the persona is more popular, meaning the players. And the players in the NBA, because they are so more recognizable, they don't have helmets like the NBA, like the NFL. So I believe when you start, all of the players of the NBA start moving, other people are listening. And as Brandon just said, other leagues are already talking about it. So I think the move can be made. And I think this sets it up now for everybody. Like I said, I think this is a watershed moment for American sports. I think this is the wake-up call that everybody was mentioning and that everybody was expecting to happen. Now that it's actually here, I think it has, for some, it's going to make some players uncomfortable, but I think it's pushing them in a healthy discomfort to some degree to say, okay, now what do you do? And I think faced with that question, I think a lot of players, a good majority, especially stars, I think they're going to say, okay, this moment is a moment we can't pass up. Because like Ant said, with Colin Kaepernick, they passed up that moment. They let that ball drop. I think with this one, I think everybody sees it again. And then with Kyrie and what Kyrie and them was saying, they let that ball drop. I think now people are sports athletes around the country are going to start to say, okay, this is the moment. No holds barred. Let's shut it down until something happens.
Coach, same question. Do you see this trickling down to the other sports leagues as well?
Well, I mean, Brandon called it. It already has. It already has. I know that I got a meeting tonight with a lot of the prominent minority coaches in college basketball, and I know this is going to be a topic of conversation. I know, it's definitely going to go. College sports is going to have to, figure out what's happening as well. But it's so much bigger. It's weird. It's like we're talking about sports, and it feels weird because it's affected by sports. But it's so much bigger than sports. And I always gotta check myself with that. Like I'm an NBA fan. Like I love basketball. Like, I mean, like no one else is, everybody else on this panel. You know what I mean? I stay up till 4:00 in the morning, arguing and debating on a sports hit list about who's better. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the love for the sport that I have, Yeah. I just love it that much. And to see that, some people, and it's not, and I always say this because it's not Brandon. It's not Brandon. And it's so many people who think of it like that. But to say, like, one of my friends today, who's a Black person, said, what is this doing? It's doing nothing, them not playing. And I called him and I had to, like, really talk to him and say, don't you understand what's happening? Like, really? And if he's thinking like that, there's so many more people in the world who do think that it's not that important. And hopefully these mega millionaires who are on cereal boxes, who are on TV, who have commercials, who sell products, who are brand ambassadors, they bring it to the light more than any.
Final thoughts here, guys. What are your final thoughts in what's going on today? Anthony.
My final thought is I'm very intrigued to see the outcome of all of this. I'm very intrigued to see what other leagues are going to do, even though, again, I have no expectations or criticism for leagues that choose to do nothing, or, again, for the duration of this boycott or, whatever this turns into. And, yeah, like I said, I'm just going to, sit back and watch. And, again, I hope this vibrates through, other channels and other factions of society, and, the unity and the power shown when you do things together, that can be a staple now, and, we can build on that.
Falco, final thoughts?
All we can do is wait and see. I wish I had the answers, but I guess we got to be patient, sit and wait, see what Woj tweets out. Mike, final thoughts?
Man, it's a proud moment for me to be able to see my brothers stand in like this. It's a beautiful thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what the demands will be, because this is the moment that we're here. And so I think we can't waste this moment. We have to find a way to make tangible ways to make this stick and connect so we can see real change.
Coach, final thoughts. I know it was emotional, and I'm with you on that. And I think for all of us, just I tell everyone, I love y'all. Every one of y'all. I'm not shy to say that. Before, I love all y'all. In the sports hit list, everyone who's watching, this call for change, we continue to have this conversation on this platform. Coach, final thoughts.
I just hope he's not going to be the last person. We know that, because violence happens in the world, and we don't live in a free, carefree world where everything is perfect. But I do hope that people start to become more understanding and have more empathy on why minorities feel the way they feel, and why we speak the way we speak, and why we get upset at the things we get upset about. I hope people just understand this is why, because I say this all the time. I could have woke up yesterday and that could have been Anthony Mullen. And would it have hit harder? Why should it hit harder? Because it's Anthony Mullen. No. For Blake, it hits just as hard for me, because I know it can be any one of us at any time. So I don't know. I don't know where sports goes. I don't, you know what? I was just, that span of moment, I just changed my mind where I don't think, I don't know. I don't think they play. I just don't see how they come back from it. I'm just starting to think about it. I don't see, because what tangible change are you going to see within a day or two from when it happened? So why would you stop not play today if you're only going to play tomorrow or play on Friday? Because that much is going to change between those 2 to 3 days. So if you're really about tangible change, then this has to be a marathon and not a sprint. And, we all got to respect them, and we got to support these guys. We got to support each other. And it is what it is, man.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this special segment discussing a call for change, the live version. Brandon, Anthony, Coach, and Mike, you guys, please stay safe. I love you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon. You're watching the Sports Hit List by the fans, for the fans, live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Let me bring in my other contributors as we continue the call for change in America. The Milwaukee Bucks have just decided to boycott their game, and I'm going to talk to other contributors. And you can exit too. And let me see who I have coming in. Paul, could you do me a favor and just turn the phone for me, bro?
Got you, sir.
There we go. Thank you. So now I have Mr. Numbers joining me, and we also have Miss Cleo joining me here on this segment. As I've been talking about the conversation, the Milwaukee Bucks just boycotted, which led to the rest of the NBA boycotting games. The Sports Hit List has never been shy to talk about politics and sports. I've always told my contributors and anyone in the group, want to talk about politics and sports, they have the platform. This is what the platform was created for, to express not only our sports opinions, but other opinions. Paul, I know you're very big on social advocacy, and people in the group know for that. What was your first thought when you saw that the Bucks, when you got that alert on your phone? What was your thought?
I'll be honest with you. I was a little bit surprised. I know the Raptors talked about it yesterday. I was shocked. I'll be honest. I was shocked, but I was kind of happy. I think in America, we tend to put sports above a lot of things, but in the reality of life, real life is here and sports is all the way at the bottom. So I respect what the Milwaukee Bucks did. It's in their right. It's in the Constitution. They're allowed to do it. The criticism that they're getting, it's from people who are uncomfortable with realizing the issues that are in this country. So I respect it 100%.
Mr. Numbers, what are your thoughts? Special shout out to you for sending me the tweets to update on the show, and always having breaking news in the sports hit list. What are your thoughts about when you got the tweet or when you saw it?
Like Paul said, there was already like rumors saying that the Raptors and Celtics were going to sit out. But today I was scrolling through Twitter and there was already like rumors before you turned on the TV and you saw it. So Woj, shout out to Adrian Wojnarowski for being one of the best in the business. He started like spamming like timelines. He was like, listen, like this is what's happening. The Bucks are not on the court right now. Then he said there's 10 minutes until game time. The Bucks are still not on the court. Then he said it's 4:03 p.m. The game should have, and the tip-off buzzer beater just went off, and the Bucks are still not on the court. The Magic decided to stay on the court for like another 10 minutes, and then they realized what was going on, and then they went right back in the locker room. I think this is the best thing the NBA could have done. I'm sick and tired of people thinking that these guys are athletes. They're not athletes. They're human beings. The Bucks employ someone that was attacked by a cop 2 years ago, and he was scared to talk about it. Mike Budenholzer, when he was the coach on the Hawks, one of his players suffered from police brutality too. So I just think it's time to stop living under a rock and start opening up your eyes in like the society we live in, the America we live in. And players, billionaires aren't players, billionaires. They're human beings, and they could die the day of tomorrow. So I'm happy for the Bucks. I'm happy for the NBA that they decided to take a stand. And it's like a big message to like the billionaire owners and be like, listen, like I don't care if you guys don't get money, like I'm here to make a stand. Shout out to Chris Paul, the president of the NBA PA, National Basketball Association, for the players. And yeah.
What are your thoughts on, guys? What are we seeing? I've been live for the last hour, so I haven't had a chance to scroll. But the fans, that's our moniker, by the fans, for the fans. So what are the fan reactions right now? I know what it's like a little bit because I've been talking to my contributors, and as I told them before, I'm doing the best I can to hold my emotions. We just saw Womack. If you were watching his emotions, he just completely let loose. What is the fan reaction right now? What are fans in Milwaukee saying? What are the fans of these playoff teams, Laker fans, Celtic fans, fans in sports? What is the discussion among them about what's going on? Paul, what have you seen, if you've seen anything?
What I've seen from a couple of people who are invested in their teams, people who are invested in sports, they're disappointed. I'm going to be respectful in criticizing them. They're disappointed. There are people who see that, that see beyond sports, are like, this is good. You're using your platform to make a stand. But definitely there are going to be people on both sides, people who don't agree, because we just got sports back. You know what I mean? Like sports just came back. And now you have an issue where a team decides to boycott and they're like, oh, here we go again. So I see it on both sides. I tried to be fair. I see it on both sides. And I think that I still agree with what the Milwaukee Bucks did. And hopefully we have some progress out of this.
Andres, you're on Twitter. I don't know for how many hours or how many days, but what are you seeing from tweets and reading from interactions with other sports fans? Shout out to my boy Ziggy, Hitless contributor. He's saying the reactions are mixed. You can check LeBron's Twitter feed and see, but I haven't been able to look at it. What's your take? What's the feedback?
Yeah, shout out to Zig, man. It's true what he's saying. There's the two type of people in the comments. There's like the trolls There's the racists, and there's the people that care. The people that care are the people that are saying, you know, we stand with you, you know, good for you, you're taking a stand. The trolls are the people that, like, they just don't care. They're like, shut up and dribble. And then there's actually like racists that are saying, I wish I could boycott my job and still get paid. That's what I've been reading like a lot. That seems like a common theme. A lot of people are saying, you know, if I call into work sick 2 or 3 days, then I'm going to lose my job. But somehow this NBA player is getting paid millions. Like, it's not fair. So I think like Paul said, I think it's 50-50. There's the side of fans that care and the side of fans that just don't care, that they want them to just shut up and dribble. Like, you're a millionaire, you know what you came here to do. But that's my input as far as that. I've seen fans of other teams do the same thing, not just the Bucks, Magic, Lakers, Blazers, Rockets, all 6 teams that were supposed to play today. There's the 50-50 of fans. The fans that don't care, that they think that these athletes are robots and they don't have a heart. And then the people that are reasoning with them and saying, you know, we're standing with you. We know why you're doing this. I feel like a lot of people fail to realize that players boycotting actually means something. You know, there's a section of people that are saying, oh, well, what is this going to do? They're going to play tomorrow. Like, this is an actual problem that's happening every day. It's been happening since the 1800s, the 1900s. Like, it's not something new that we're getting accustomed to.
All right. Joining us now is Dan Tortora from the Wake Up Call with Dan. Dan, thanks for joining us. Originally, we had a schedule, but with everything going on right now, we just changed the script and I said F the script. We're talking about honestly, that's really what happened last minute. We're basically discussing the Milwaukee Bucks deciding to boycott their game and the rest of the NBA league being canceled. What was your thought when you got the tweet, when you found the notification of that just happened?
You know, I mean, I think honestly, you know, this is a time for people to show up. And I think, you know, talking about it is great, but we have to be about it, and we have to be clear about the message that we're sending, no matter what color you are, what background you are, what ethnicity and whatnot. I think we have to show clarity that we are all unified, and we need to stand up against racial injustice. We need to stand up against problems in our community. Not all cops are bad, and not all people of the Black community are bad. And I think that there's this giant disconnect that's happened for over 400 years that is way overdue to have some type of clarity and some type of reality that people feel safe and that protect and serve matters, and that everybody's going to be treated the same. So what do I think about the Bucks saying we're not going to play? I mean, I obviously saw that, you know, my team, Toronto and Boston, they're looking at doing the same thing. And, you know, I think in all honesty, if these big time players in these big time leagues making millions of dollars just stop, I think that it makes the world have to look. And it's sad that Joe Smith down the street, them saying, I've had enough of this, if that's not good enough. But if LeBron James does it, and, you know, and some of these other guys out there in Spicy P and whatnot, then maybe people will start paying attention to the fact that there's a lot of problems going on.
Dan, you have some intel with the NFL. Do you believe they will follow suit? I've been asking this among the entire show. And we see some MLB games getting canceled today. I'm getting reports of that. Could this trickle down? I mean, the NFL is about 2 weeks out from beginning. Could we see this potentially happening to the NFL as well?
I think, you know, the NFL obviously is in a unique situation because 4 years ago, they punished somebody for peacefully protesting. And now 4 years later, they're saying, you know, let's take a knee together. Let's be together on this. You know, Roger Goodell saying Colin Kaepernick's not a bad guy. And, you know, do I think that he necessarily 100% believes that? I can't speak for him. But if he believed that, I don't think he would spend 4 years waiting to say it and watch everything happen to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and whatnot to open his mouth on some of this stuff. So I think that the professional leagues feel that they're at a place right now where if they play, and the NBA kind of set this precedent, that if they were going to play, they didn't want that to halt positive change. They didn't want that to halt advancement. And so now that they've stopped saying, okay, guess what? We played thinking that things were going to get better. We're going to keep this message going. We have Black Lives Matter on the court. And you know, you hear players in interviews talk about how important it is. Kyle Lowry talked about it during their series that they just had with the Nets. So I think the important thing about it is we try to keep it front and center. And then something else happens. And I think that, you know, we have to really break it down. Like every time somebody gets shot, every time something happens, every time there's the Black community in the cops. I think we have to really be clear about looking at each situation and seeing what's happening before we jump to conclusions. I think it's important to break everything down and really see exactly what's happening. And if this is an issue of racial injustice, any of those issues, one is too many. And I think when we get to those points, the NFL is going to potentially possibly follow suit with that, because I think that we have had more than enough of injustice in this country. And I can't even believe we're sitting here in 2020 talking about it still. And we're going to have to talk about it until it gets fixed.
Coming in last minute in clutch, Mr. Ray Jarvis from the Gray Area. Ray was one of the people I texted. Again, I'm completely transparent. When this was breaking news, I said, Ray, who's my other media man, what do I do? He goes, you know what to do. Come on, man. You know what to do. You already know how to engineer it. So, Ray, what are your thoughts when that news broke out and you got that text or tweet that the Bucks were boycotting the game?
My thoughts were, give Kyrie his flowers. 2 months ago, he told all of you, it's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than sports. He got mocked, scoffed on First Take by one of the worst public speakers ever, made fun of by NBA fans. And lo and behold, here we are, approaching September, more of the same in America. And now players want to boycott. That's how I'm feeling right now. Give that man his flowers, because I keep trying to say Kyrie's aloof and he doesn't know what he's talking about and the earth is flat and everything you love to say. But once again, Kyrie was right. Kyrie's been right more often than he's been wrong. And people want to write him off. He's right now. Things are crazy in America. We don't need a NBA championship to argue about whether it's an asterisk or not. If these players want to protest and they feel like being in a bubble where they can't travel freely, it's hindering them from doing what's right in their heart, then we don't need basketball. We'll find something else to talk about. There's baseball, there's hockey, there's football. I'll even watch some lacrosse if there's lacrosse. I watched tennis last night with Serena in an empty arena. We don't need basketball if these players feel like they're being held back. Give Kyrie his flowers. We don't need basketball. All of you fans need to knock it the hell off. There's bigger things going on outside. The RNC was going on. Barely a mention of a black man getting shot close range by a police officer going into his vehicle. But we want to talk about the NBA Finals. Knock it off. All right? It's bigger than Nino Brown.
Should I end the show on that note or not? Go ahead, Miss Cleo. Miss Cleo, let me ask you this. Does it stop at the boycott with the games, or does it continue and just cancel the rest of the season and they don't play? And that's been a conversation. And some saying, well, they're going to come back after taking a couple games off, or is this going to be able to shut down the entire rest of the championship?
I believe it's going to shut down the rest of the season. I think yesterday was the last day. And, a lot of people are asking, but what does this do? This doesn't do anything. But the point is using your platform. And if you look at how many people have invested their time and effort watching basketball, and now you're watching the players make a stand, this is huge. If today's the last day, I'm happy. Because like Ray said, like the future MVP said, we got other sports to watch. A lot of these players were already protesting before they entered the bubble. Like Jaylen Brown drove 16 hours to Atlanta. So I'm happy. And let me say this. I think a lot of times we mix race and police. If you're looking at this case, if you're looking at Breonna Taylor's case, you can say that racism wasn't involved. But the system that protects officers, the issue is accountability for officers who make mistakes like this. If you shoot somebody 7 times in the back, you have to be evaluated for mentally. That has nothing to do with racism. That has to do with a mental issue. Because as an officer, you're trained for situations in which you are put in danger. You cannot shoot someone 7 times in the back when you're not in danger. The same thing with Breonna Taylor. If you go to a judge and say that we need a warrant and we need to enter this house without identifying yourself, then you go to the house in an open carry state, shoot, and allow the woman to die in your face after knowing you went to the wrong house. There's something mentally wrong with you. Again, that's not racism, but mentally we have to check a lot of officers to make sure if they're suitable to be officers. That's my opinion.
Andres, do you believe this ends the season?
I believe so, honestly. To add to the NFL point, the only way the NFL gets boycotted is if one of the leaders stands up, like Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, the guys that you can walk out on the street and recognize. If they like stand up and decide tomorrow they're going to boycott, then they're probably going to cancel the league. If let's say like a linebacker that nobody knows or a rookie says something, then they're probably not going to pay attention to him. Just like Ray said with Kyrie Irving, everyone had this history of, oh, Kyrie said the earth is flat. Kyrie said the sky isn't blue, this and that. And now look at us. We're sitting here remembering what Kyrie said 2 months ago. He was like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, it's going to take away from everything. But people are like, no, you know what? You're crazy. You think the earth is flat. Shut up and dribble. You're injured. You're only saying that because the Nets don't have a shot at winning the title and Kevin Durant is hurt. So people were more focused on the basketball aspect of Kyrie instead of the rifle mindset of Kyrie. So I do think this is the end for the NBA. You know, Adam Silver's going to have to look at himself in the mirror and release a statement tonight or tomorrow, and that's going to be it.
Ray, what are your thoughts on the NFL? How does the NFL handle it? Do they follow suit with the NBA, or do they do their own thing and play their season without fans?
I think the status quo remains with the NBA. I mean, the NFL. They're going to play. You know, again, we saw how they handled Kaepernick. The NFL doesn't like landmines. The NFL doesn't like loud opinions. They don't like anything that deviates from the schedule. So, to Andres' point, unless somebody like maybe Drew Brees to fully atone for what he did a couple months ago decides to come forward, or Pat Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP, current face of the league, does something, or maybe even a Tom Brady, one of these elite level quarterbacks says something, we're going to get football because the NFL and the ownership, like I've said countless times, the NFL is a representation of Americana. At the highest level, you have the rich whites. In the middle somewhere, you got the black people and you got some poor people. And the rich people at the top make the decisions, and we got to figure it out in the middle. That's the NFL. So I don't expect a boycott. I don't expect anything to happen. These guys, and plus the contractual structures of a lot of these players makes it difficult for them to step forward. The NFL players, the NBA players get paid. It's big time money, guaranteed contracts. The coach can't just say, I'm going to cut you tomorrow if you decide to do something abnormal. So the NFL, they have too much to risk. That's why you saw a lot of guys fall back with Kaepernick. The risk they felt wasn't worth the reward. And in this situation, they have families to feed. We got a global pandemic. These players are not going to risk paychecks to stand outside of what's going on right now.
Dan, final thoughts as we wrap up this segment. What are your final thoughts here?
Honestly, I just and I'm seeing that Roger Goodell and the NFL are looking into some things right now because I just got an email. But I think that, you know, ultimately, I mean, I've talked about it on my show way before Breonna Taylor, way before everything that's been going on now. And I don't understand why we're living in these times. I don't understand why this has to happen. I don't understand why people aren't treated the same. I don't understand why culture has put someone at the top and somebody else at the bottom. I don't understand. I mean, at the base of everything, don't we all want the same stuff? We want to have enough money to live our lives, to pay our bills, to be able to go on vacation. We want our kids to have a better life than we do. We want to have a good neighborhood. We want to have food. We want to be able to clothe ourselves and be safe. I mean, if we all want the same thing, and we should all have the same right to that. We should all have the same right to the same protection. Nobody should get into a car thinking, well, if I get pulled over, am I going to live today? So, you know, I mean, it's just the reality of, unfortunately, all the colors in the crayon box are not treated the same, and I don't understand why. And, you know, I have these conversations all the time with my friends of every background, ethnicity, language, culture, and we just kind of, we don't get it. And I don't think I'm ever going to get it because I don't understand hate. I only know love. But to tell the honest truth, when it comes to sports, we all have to step up. And if you go on your show, Carl, like today, you flip the script. You know, when I've gone on my show these last few weeks and whatnot, if I have to talk about something, I have to talk about it because our silence is almost like an acceptance. And we can't be silent because if we're silent as people who speak for a living, that tells people that we don't care, even if we do. So we have to speak up. We have to talk about it. We have to make people that are unheard be heard until we all feel safe, until every single one of us can go to sleep not having to fear for our children's lives when our children are good people.
Andres, final thoughts.
To add to the point, it's tiring, not being like I'm gonna say a white American male in this country and not get the same opportunities that other people may get. I'm tired of waking up to someone new on the news getting kidnapped, getting killed, and like injustice. And you know, like we've said numerous times, hopefully we can live one day where where the grass is green and we're all the same. But right now, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Like a lot of people are saying, well, what is this going to do tomorrow? We're all going to go back to watching basketball. Like it's not made that way. It's a marathon, not a race. Rest in peace to Nipsey. He spoke a lot about the problems in his community, and a lot of people bash him for it. So hopefully one day we can live in America where we're all treated the same way, regardless of the pigment of our skin, regardless of the religious beliefs that we have. But until then, we're going to keep on fighting and we're going to keep on pushing forward, because it's not a one-day thing. It's going to continue to happen for the next few months.
Ray Jarvis, final thoughts.
I mean, with this, not to get overly political, but when it's all said and done with the issues that are constantly happening in this country, there's only one way to fix it. You know, they talk about equality and equal opportunity and wanting a fair shake. I don't believe in that. I think that we as a people need to make some changes. I won't get too heavy because this is a sports show, but we as a black race need to make some changes in the inventory. And then once we get our inventory right, then things will happen for us the way they need to happen. That's all I'm going to say on this topic right now.
Miss Cleo, final thoughts.
I agree with everything that everyone has said. We would like to live in a world where everyone is equal. Unfortunately, you know, I think some people realize that dividing and conquering people, it's the best way for them to control what they control at the top. But you know, as long as we the four of us keep on, you know, treating everyone equally, hopefully if you know, our friends see it, they treat everyone equally. Hopefully it starts a chain of everyone viewing everyone individually instead of generalizing people as a race or as a gender or for their sexual preference. We got to understand that equality is not just black and white. It's male, female, it's gay, straight. It's a lot of things. So if we want equality, it has to be across the board. It can't just be black and white. It has to be across the board. So we won't get to that maybe not in our generation, but hopefully our kids' generation or grandkids' generation, it happens.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for joining me here on this segment today. I will continue to use this platform to have conversations. Before this happened this year, before George Floyd, dating back to 2016, you could look it up in the archives. We've always had this conversation. The Sports Hitless brand has never been steered away from having these types of conversations. We have to. Us as media men, all of us here who are using social media, Dan on his show, Andres on his show, Paul in the Sports Hitless group, Ray on his show, we have to use our voice. If we could do more segments, endless segments about this so people can understand what's going on, I will continue to use that. I'll continue to tweet. I'll continue to use my IG. I'll continue to use me as a professor talking to students and always letting them know what's right and what's wrong for us, the call for change. The last word I'm going to say is people are discussing saying that the NBA players will have a meeting tonight, and Woj is tweeting that the season is in jeopardy. So we'll continue with up-to-date information. Please make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Also, make sure you check out The Gray Area. You can check out Dan Tortora's show as well, and listening to all the podcasts. You gentlemen, take care. Please stay safe. I love you guys. I love the fans, and I'll talk to everyone soon. Take care. Please make sure you check us out next Wednesday live at 4:00, only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Have a good night.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.